All right, guys. Well, I actually see quite a few new faces in here tonight. Welcome to Liquid, guys. If you guys haven't met me, my name is Eric. And if anyone knows anything about me, I like really cheesy puns. So I'm going to give you guys one tonight. Thank you. All right, so why couldn't the melon get married? Because he can't elope. All right, anyway, we have a couple of announcements for you guys. One, tonight is the start of our Persons of Interest series, which is a whole bunch of guest speakers we have coming in over the summer, starting tonight with Dave Vadilla, who's a fantastic speaker and gifted teacher. So he's going to be speaking tonight, and he's going to be fantastic. So I'm excited for you guys.
First of all, I want to say the musicians were outstanding. They are really outstanding. Way to go, everyone. I want to tell you a little story before I start. I had, before I got in the car to come here, I had one of those once-in-a-lifetime spectacular moments, A triple plus. It was a gift from God. I will never forget it. Let me tell you the story. About 3 years ago, Pastor Steve on Sunday was talking about the relationship between a father and a daughter and how special it is. And my wife and I have 4 children. We have 3 sons. We were blessed with one daughter who is, you know, from a father's perspective, the great love of my life. And she is my daughter, okay? That's my girl. So she lives in Oklahoma City. And she has, 3 years ago, she had, her and her husband lived there with my 2 grandsons, David and Gabriel. And she got pregnant, and they really wanted a girl. And they did the ultrasound test. It was a girl. And we were prepared to go there for the birth of our first granddaughter, and something went terribly wrong. And they lost the baby. And I was there. My wife, who's in the medical field, we flew to Oklahoma City, and we were there, and I left the room when it was time for my daughter to deliver the baby who did not make it. And I heard something. I heard from the next, I was just one room over, and I heard my daughter wail. It was not a cry. It was a wail. It was a wail of desperation and searing pain that she had, which even talking about it now, years later, is very difficult for me to do. So about 2 years ago, my wife and I went back to Oklahoma City to visit the grandsons. And we got off the plane, and little Gabriel says, "There's a baby in mommy's tummy." And my thought was, oh no, I can't go through this again. Because there was a genetic problem, there was just something wrong, and I was worried. And so Sunday's Father's Day this week. So my daughter and her husband and the 2 grandsons and my new granddaughter came to the house. She's perfect. She's absolutely perfect. So right before I got in the car to come here, she's 1 now, and she just learned how to walk. And just before I picked up my notes to come here and be with you, and she toddled across the kitchen with her arms up. I picked her up, and she kissed me right here, okay? You don't get many of those moments in your life, so it was a blessing. And we went through a lot of pain to get that kiss. But it was great. It was wonderful. Hey, this is graduation season. A lot of you have been going to graduations, I'm sure, to see family members or friends who've either graduated from high school or college. And if you didn't go this year, you've gone to them in the past. Hopefully you had one yourself at one time. And usually, I've been to more, I was in the field of education. I've been to more graduations than any person you know, okay? And usually, this is what someone talks about. Follow your dreams. Oh, it's a nice speech. It's so nice. Mothers and fathers and grandparents, they just, oh, my little one. They can fall, you can do anything. That's what they say. You can do anything. You can achieve anything. Just work hard. You know, you can make it. worst speech ever, okay? It is the worst speech ever. Did anybody here go to the Red Lion School District? There has to be, because some of you look really intelligent. Okay. I was the principal at Red Lion High School once upon a time. And so I'm a little prejudiced. So if you're from Dallastown, just don't let me know. Okay. So I remember going to the 8th grade academic excellent banquet. Breakfast. Did anybody go to that? Look at these smart kids. You were there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. This is what happens. There's about 500 people in the cafeteria. There's about 300 kids that get this valuable certificate that says they're an academic all-star or something. And I had to go because I was the high school principal, and so it was my job to go. And it was really great for about 3 minutes. Because it was the same thing. And the kids would come up and they'd smile and get their pictures taken with somebody they didn't know and go sit down, and their parents would take their picture. It was sweet. Okay, it was very nice. So I was bored, and so I got a sheet they gave us this little program with all the kids' names, and it was a long list, because in Red Lion, everybody's smart. So I decided to start writing down what all the kids were what their dreams were. Because that's what they would come up and say, my name is whatever it is, and I'm going to, and a lot of the boys thought they were going to play in the NFL or Major League Baseball, but the girls, it was interesting. I wrote it down, 25% of the girls, you know what their dream was? Think about it. What was the dream of 25% of the 8th grade girls? You have a guess? That's a good guess. Be a mom, it's a great guess. Both wrong. Teacher, no, that's such a good guess, but it's wrong. No, they wanted to be marine biologists. Why? Because dolphins are cute. Is that good advice? I'm going to tell you about my dream. I'm going to share my dream with you. I had, in February of 1964, way before you were born. In fact, probably before your parents were born. No? Oh, thank goodness. Okay. 1964, February, I had a moment in my life that changed everything. Everything from that moment, I can pinpoint everything I did, and when it goes back to that moment, something happened to me that changed everything. Now, a good church story would be if I told you that I accepted Jesus into my heart and everything changed and yahoo, everything's good, but that's not it. It has nothing to do with Jesus, actually. It has nothing to do with Jesus. I saw something on television. Now, you got to remember, 1964, you got 3 channels. 3 channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, and there's PBS, but nobody watched it. And it was in black and white. It was Sunday night. It was 8 o'clock. Now, your parents could tell you what was on TV Sunday nights at 8 o'clock in 1964. It was the Ed Sullivan Show. Okay, everybody watched Ed Sullivan. It was a horrible show most of the time. The man had no talent. All he did was introduce people. And there were Broadway people and guys that would spin plates, and it was boring. But it was 1964. There was nothing else to do. And then someone came on, and I saw this. It changed everything. There he is. This guy, I saw him, and everything changed. That's what I wanted to be. Think about it. Girls loved him. I mean, you know what my claim to fame was in high school? I was the 2nd best trombone player in my high school. That's how sad I am. Now, if you were the 3rd best trombone player in your high school, I apologize, because I just made you feel bad. I had nothing going for me. And I saw this guy, the girls loved him. I mean, every time he said something, people listened. Every time he finished performing, people cheered. That's what I wanted to be like. That was my dream. And you know, I gave it a shot. I tried. I really did. I really tried. I went to music school. I went to a really good music school. when it was a music major, and I gave it my best shot. I just wasn't good enough. It really wasn't. And I would have been settled. They say to set the bar high, and if you fall a little short, that's okay. And I would have settled to be like in Hermits or some other lousy band. I wasn't good enough for that either. But it did get me into a career which eventually brought me here. But that was my dream. That's what I wanted. So, hey, what's wrong with dreams? Because we all have them. You have dreams too. We're not going to share them. That's why we call them dreams. We keep them to ourselves. They're highly personal. But you have one. You have a dream. You have a fantasy. And in our dreams, we're always good looking. And we're always successful. And we always achieve greatness. That's the way we are. That's our dreams. There's nothing really terribly wrong with that. That's normal. But there's a problem with dreams. Let me tell you what it is. Our dreams are self-centered. In your dreams and in my dreams, I or you are the star of the show. Everything revolves around me. It's me. That's the problem. And why is it a problem? It's in design. Because we were created to be God-centered. That's the way we are created. And we have been infected with sin. We were born with sin in our lives. It's an infection. It's a problem that we have. It's a problem, by the way, we'll never get rid of in this life. We're going to struggle with it. We're self-centered. We were designed to be God-centered, and we will never find total happiness being self-centered. Name any celebrity that you know that's really, really, truly happy. They might be happier. Maybe you could be happier if some of your dreams took place, but you'll never find that true contentment and that true happiness that you want. We prefer our wisdom to God's wisdom. Think about it. You do. You're tempted. Your wisdom more than God's wisdom. Your desires are more important than God's desires sometime. And your reputation is more important to you than God's honor sometime. These are the struggles that we face. And it's tough. And chasing these dreams will never make us totally content. It will never make us happy. And I have some bad news for you tonight. You can't get rid of it. You just can't. You're going to struggle with this for the rest of your life here. You're going to struggle with it. And those of you who have a commitment with Christ know exactly what I was talking about. It drove the Apostle Paul crazy. He kept saying, I do things I don't want to do. I think things I don't want to think. He had this struggle between being God-centered and self-centered, and you're going through the same struggle every day of your life. You really are. You can't get rid of it. If you try to uproot these idols in your life, they'll just grow back. Ask any alcoholic. You can try to quit drinking if you have an alcohol problem. It'll just come back. It never really goes away. You can't remove it. What you can do is replace it. And you can replace it only with God in the center of your life. And that would be Jesus. That's the only way. To replace these evil thoughts, to replace going in the bad direction, can only take place when God's at the center. And not a belief in God, talking about a relationship with God. Let me tell you a little Bible story. Nobody really gets this Bible story. They teach it to you when you're a little kid. When you're a little kid in Sunday school. Remember the story about Jacob wrestling with someone? Remember that story? And some people say he was wrestling with an angel. Some people say he was wrestling with a man. Some people say he was wrestling with God. And the moral of the story is if you just hang on, God will give you what you want. And that's not what that story's about. And it's a quirky little story that most people don't understand, so they just skip over it. But that story has meaning for you, or it wouldn't be in Scripture. Let me remind you who Jacob was. This happened 1,900 years before Jesus. And it was written in the book of Genesis. You know who wrote the book of Genesis? Do you know who actually wrote it? Anybody? Moses. Excellent. So Moses writes it about 1450 years before Christ. So this happened way before Moses. So there was Abraham, then there was Isaac, and then came Jacob, and that's who we're going to talk about, Jacob. Now Jacob was a twin. His older brother's name was Esau, remember? And Esau was born, it said in Scripture, they actually were fighting in the womb, in their mother's womb. And when the birth process took place, Esau was delivered first. And wrapped around his ankle was Jacob's hand, actually grabbing hold of his brother, trying to pull him back in and get out first. Because whoever gets out first gets the inheritance. And that was his nature his whole life. I mean, he wanted stuff. He really wanted stuff. He wanted the blessing of the Father. He wanted the inheritance. He wanted all of this stuff. So he pulls a trick on his father to get the inheritance. Remember the story about the stew? And he pretends he's Esau, and the father blesses him, and he steals Esau's birthright and the inheritance. And so Esau's really mad at him, so Esau makes a vow. And he vows he's going to kill Jacob. And vows were taken very seriously back then. So Jacob has to leave. He leaves the area. He becomes exceptionally wealthy. He has more money than you could use back in those days. And he has the beautiful wife, plus the bonus of the not so good looking sister. If you remember the story about the marriage situation, if you don't look it up, it's kind of a cool story. So he has all of this stuff. And he has so much stuff that he's kicked out of he's asked to leave. There was jealousy going on in this land, and he has to go back home. Who's waiting for him? Esau, with 400 men sworn to kill him. So one night, I'll condense the story. One night, Jacob is alone. He sends one wife this way, half his possessions this way, one wife this way, half possessions, hoping that if things don't work out, and it doesn't look like they will, at least half of them will get away. And here he is. I mean, he had everything on what looks to be the last night of his life. He had everything. He had the good-looking girl. He had the money. He had the flocks. He had the inheritance. He had the blessing. He had everything. Self-centered. He had it all. He had his dream. He had it. But he was going to die tomorrow. What did it matter? What do you think he did on this last night of his life? If you were going to be executed tomorrow morning, what would you do tonight? What would you do? This is a quiet group. Somebody's got to answer it. Huh? Who said that? Are you from Red Line? That's a good answer. Yeah, he prayed. You would too. If you were going to die tomorrow morning, you'd pray. I don't care if you're a believer here tonight or not. Doesn't matter. If you're going to die tomorrow, you're going to pray. And he did. He prayed, because none of that stuff mattered anymore. None of his dreams mattered anymore. So when you pray to God. Somebody showed up. It was dark. It was pitch black. It was dark. And Hosea said it was an angel. Book of Genesis said it was a man. Who it was the pre-incarnate Christ. It was Jesus who shows up. When you pray to God, you get Jesus. And that's who he got. He didn't know it. He had no idea who Jesus was. He had no idea there was a Son of God. But that's who he got. In fact, I've seen a lot of artwork of somebody wrestling with a great big old angel with wings. What it probably really looked like was this. That's probably what it looked like, only it was dark. Okay? It was pitch black. And he grabs hold of this whoever, it's Jesus we know now, and he won't let go. And so whoever he's wrestling with takes his finger, and it says he touches his hip. The Hebrew word is the very lightest possible tap. He just went like this, just a little tap on Jacob, and it dislocated his hip. For the rest of his life, he walked with a limp. He knew this wasn't a dream. And it started to dawn on him that who he was wrestling with was superhuman, had superhuman strength and ability. Things started to click for Jacob. And the person he was wrestling with said, let go. It's almost light. And Jacob knew that to see the face of God, if you would see God's face, you would die. That was the rules back then. And he had a hold of him, dislocated hip. The smart thing to do is to just let go and say, my bad, I'm sorry, I didn't realize who you were. You win. But he didn't. He made an unusual decision. He made the same decision a lot of you made. He did the counterintuitive thing. Rather than letting go and living, he held on. That was his way of saying, I don't care about this stuff. I got it all. It meant nothing. What I need is God. If I die, I die. What I need is God. That's what I need. And that's what so many of you have said in your own way. I know I have dreams, but what I need is God. See this guy? You don't know who he is. I'm going to tell you his name, but 2 hours from now you won't remember it. But I'll tell it to you anyway. His name is Vernon Grounds. You think girls scream for him? Did everyone want to dress like him? Anybody care what he said? Is he spectacular? Is he someone you want to be like? Probably not. Probably not. Let me tell you who he was. Vernon Grounds was just the guy. He was, he's influenced your life. You don't know it, but he did. Vernon Grounds was president of Denver Theological Seminary. Big deal. In Littleton, Colorado. It's no big deal to you. You've probably never been there. You'll never be there. But that's what he did. So when he was 65, when you're 65, which is how old I am, he retired. And rather than just do nothing, he just stayed on campus and counseled people, counseled young pastors. That's all he did, was encourage people and counsel. He was 65. He did that. Gordon MacDonald, who spoke in this church, I don't know if any of you went to a seminar he did a couple months ago, said that he was the most influential man in his life, and that's when the guy was 90. I would love to be influential when I'm 90 years old. I'd love to be doing something good when I'm 90. So Gordon MacDonald, who you don't know, who wrote a couple of good books that you haven't read and you don't have to, was also the mentor of some guy who runs a church called Living Word in York, Pennsylvania. That's Steve Almquist. So Gordon MacDonald was Steve Almquist's mentor, and this guy was Gordon MacDonald's, and here you sit under the influence of something some guy you never heard of, wouldn't want to be like, or anything else. So what you do for the Lord, you may not see it, but it matters. So whatever happened to these heroes? I remember when this happened. You guys weren't born yet, were you? Wow. You missed this. Yeah, he died. He died, and I was sad. I was shaving, getting ready to go to work. I was in my early 30s, and I remember hearing the news, and I wept. That's my hero. Dead, and I mean, everybody showed up, and everybody was sad, and there went my dream. And there was a time, I remember stupidly saying I would trade my life for his when I was in my teens. Yeah, I would trade my life for his. I was 16. I'm that smart. Yeah, that's what happened to him. The other guy, he just died. He died. Typical obituary. Nobody noticed. He was pretty old, huh? Does it leave his age here? Is it up here? How old was he? 96. Oh, yeah. 96. Good life. Okay, now, both of these guys had an appointment. They both had an appointment. John Lennon had an appointment with the Creator. How much did it matter when he had his appointment? How much did it matter to the Lord that he wrote hit songs? The girls screamed when he sang, that everyone wanted his photograph. How much did it matter? Did it do him any good? This was the guy who hated religion and hated God. Did it really do any good? Did his dreams matter much? Did it mean much? Or how about this guy? How about him? Do you think it mattered when he had his appointment? Do you think it mattered that he served the Lord faithfully? That he cared, that he loved, that he encouraged, that he did things that you don't really dream about, nor do I, enough. So like we all have an appointment, right? We all have the same appointment. You know that, don't you? This doesn't go on forever. You have an appointment. So which guy do you want to be now? Do you want to be like the other guy, where everybody's crying and misses you, but you take nothing with you? Or do you want to be like this guy? So here's the choice that we get to make. We're kind of like Jacob. This is the choice we get to make. This choice you're going to have to make, or a choice you've already made you should be joyful about. You could follow your dreams. Go ahead. Give it your best shot. What happens, happens. You can follow your dreams, or you can follow God's dream for you. There's a big difference. Now, I'm 65. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. If I could be back in your chair, and I'd like to be, in a way. I'd like another shot at this. I'd like to do things better. I wish I knew then what I know now. I really do. I look back at my life full of disappointment in myself. You will too when you get to be my age. But you got to make a choice. Follow your dreams. Follow God's dream for you. My advice to you is this. It's simply this. You need to choose wisely. That's what you need to do. Rob?
Who is there beside me to take my hand and guide me when hope seems far away? When sin and shame are blinding, I hear your grace reminding you've lifted all my shame. Lord, who am I that you would draw near in all my shame? Your love gave me life. I will never be the same. With all I am, with all I am, I surrender all to you. You more than any words that I can choose. With everything